Hi, this is Katy Weeks, an independent, close to my heart consultant, and I'm here today with my close to my heart twisted sisters to show you my take on a kaleidoscope card. So we're going to get started by putting some of our basic layers on our card base. I have the Blue Skies coordinating cardstock, and it has a UV glossy coating. I don't know if you can see those designs. They're absolutely beautiful. I'm going to take the candy apple 5 1/4 by 4 inch and put on the front, then the same size for the canary on the inside, and then just a plain piece of canary beside it on the inside so that I have a place to write inside my card. Next, I've already pre-cut some of the things. I've cut the Blue Skies Sapphire paper with a design for my shaker window for that ring, and I'm taking the shaker window, the large circle, and cutting a piece of the Blue Skies paper as well. I've also pre-cut the Canary Blue Skies coordinating cardstock with the base of that Ladybug shaker thin cut, and I'm going to use that to spin with. It has that UV coating on it as well. I'll show you how I made the inside of that shaker in just a minute. And then I'm going to cut a couple more things. This is an old thin cut from a circle tag, and I'm going to cut that and then use the large circle from the shaker and cut into it. So I have a little piece that I can put a stamped image on. And so I'm going to cut into that tag just a little bit. And then I have the perfect little piece that I can put on there so I can stamp. Okay, I'm going to take the words "Spin Me" from the Rainbow Wishes stamp set and stamp it in Sapphire so that it is on my little tab. And that will be stamped at the top of the tab. And then underneath it in Candy Apple, I'm going to stamp an arrow that came from the Aurora Cardmaking Workshop Stamps and Thin Cuts. It's a cute little arrow that almost has like a heart for the tail. And next, I'm going to take my Aurora Cardmaking Workshop Stamps and Thin Cuts again, and I'm going to use the banner from it. I am stamping from the Time to Celebrate May Stamp of the Month, the words "Time to." I actually just cut my stamp and I stamped that in the Candy Apple, and then I stamped my banner in the Sapphire, and then I ran it through my die cutting machine. I just used a little bit of Scotch removable tape to hold it in place. That seems to not tear my cardstock, and it's just a very temporary way to hold it down. Then I'm going to pop it up with some of the foam squares from the inside of that shaker window foam square sheet that comes in the pack. This will be at the bottom of my card front, and it needs to be low enough not to interfere with the spinner element at the top. Okay, for the inside of my card, I want it to say "Shine Bright." So I'm going to stamp that in my Versamark ink, and I'm going to emboss it with gold embossing powder. If when you are stamping things and embossing it, you have just a tiny little area that doesn't quite get stamped enough or embossed enough, you can always go back with our new embossing pens and fill that in and add more embossing powder. That's just a great little way to fill in, and you'll see me do that here in just a minute with this element. I had just the tiniest little part of a star or a couple stars that I wanted to fill in. And after I heated and melted that, I decided to go back, add a little bit more with my embossing pen, add some more embossing powder, heat it again, and it worked perfectly. So the front of my card will say "Time to," and the inside will say "Shine Bright." It's kind of hard to photograph this card with that gold embossing powder. As you can see, it was really reflecting right here. I had to trim it down a little bit. I want that Blue Skies Coordinating cardstock to show up behind it with all of those little designs. You can see that UV coating makes it very easy to peel up and re-stick if you need to. Okay, time to work on the shaker element for the front of my card. So I took a piece of acetate, it's actually just an old transparency, and colored it with 6 different colors of our tri-blend markers. Then I took the shaker window thin cuts and I cut some of those shapes out on the acetate that I had colored. I did like pink and red hearts and things like that. I also took this happy birthday shaker thin cut and I used the triangle shape to cut for some more of the shaker elements. I even cut some of our holographic paper. And then I added some other bling. Some of the sequins that you see at the top of my mat, I added those, and some other gems that I just took the adhesive off from the back. I glued some of those little elements from the acetate down on that acetate window. And I just did that with my liquid glass. It was very time consuming and you did not want to watch that whole process, even if I speed it up. It's like watching paint dry. So here I'm taking my microtip scissors and going around the inside of that ring and loosening up that ring from the rest of those foam squares. And then I peel off the backing. I put it down so that I can start building my shaker window. So I adhere this down and then push up from the middle so those foam squares do not stick, and I have my perfect circle for my shaker window, and it's just the easiest way I have found to put down that circle and keep it nice and round. Then I'm going to build my shaker elements using that narrow 3D foam tape that I'm going to cut in half with those coated microtip scissors. And before I build this, I need to get that brad in the middle of that acetate. So I took the outside from that shaker window I cut in blue and I lined it up on my grid so that the top and the side are at 0, and then I punched a hole in the perfect center that I lined up with those squares, and that's how I got my perfect center. And then I pushed my brad through and splay the 2 things at the bottom underneath, and now I'm ready to build that shaker window. I kind of want it to look like, you know, one of those stained glass windows where you see all the divided geometric areas. So I cut this in half, and then I just start putting down some like triangles and different shapes, and then I'm going to put different colors of my shaker elements in the different little sections that I build on this shaker window. Make sure you keep that sticker on the top. Don't peel that back yet. You've already got the outside shaker window foam exposed, and you want to keep as much of it covered as you can. It will make it just a tad bit easier when you go to put all of those little shaker elements so they don't stick to everything when we fill it. So I got those all in, and now I will put my different little sequins mix and the colored acetate shapes that I colored with my tri-blend markers. I have a few gems and different things that I've picked out from all my different notions. And you don't want to get this too full. If it's too full, there won't be much shaking or moving. So you want to add a fair amount to each section, but you really don't want to overfill it. And I filled it by colors. You certainly don't have to do that, but I filled it by colors, and I tried to put like the pink and the red a little ways away from each other and things like that. when I needed to flip things over, I found that those micro tip scissors were pretty handy because they could just get right in there and help me flip things over. And now I'm going to get my piece of acetate. I just try scratching till I find which side has the film and take that off. And I'll remove the backing for those tiny little strips that are around the card. I really don't want these white foam strips to show, so I'll be covering those in just a minute. So then I put my acetate on after I make sure all those little pieces are staying inside. And then I want to make sure that it still indeed spins and shakes. Yes, it does. How fun. Okay, so next I'm going to cut some narrow black strips and just cover all of those foam strips that are underneath. I want to kind of hide those, make it look more like a stained glass type of effect. So I cut those to size and I glue those down and just make sure they're all covered. It doesn't have to be perfect underneath the circle part of the shaker because we will put that blue ring around the top. And so that does give you a little wiggle room as you are covering these foam strips. And I did later go and add a couple of gems to the intersections for these black strips that I put down, I don't know, just to give it a little more bling and a little more dimension. So I just used tiny little glue dots to put down this ring to this shaker window. So if you're enjoying watching different ways that you can use your products from Close to My Heart, if you could click like below and then make sure you hit subscribe and ring that bell, I would really appreciate it. And make sure before you finish this whole video, and I've got more to show you, make sure you hop along to the other ladies that are my Close to My Heart Twisted Sisters and see what they have for you. Okay, so I've added the word spin with that little arrow. Isn't that fun? And I'm going to use some foam dots to pop that up on the front of my card. When I added those foam dots, I made sure to avoid the center. I want that brad to be able to freely spin. So I put plenty of foam dots, but I stayed away from the very center so that it could spin freely. If you would like any Close to My Heart products, please go to Katy, Kati.ctmh.com and click on the shop and you will be able to find these products. Many of these things are just showing up today for May 1st with our brand new catalog. Okay, so the next one that you're going to hop to will be Lori Kutsch, and I can't wait for you to see what she has in store for you. Thank you for joining me today, and make sure that you have liked, subscribed, and turned on your notifications for all of my Close to My Heart Twisted Sisters so you can be inspired each day by some new videos that one of them will post or some of my other fellow Close to My Heart consultants. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.